Welcome back to World of Immersion. Today we have a new video for you, and that is we're going to be ranking the top 10 most intense roller coasters at Six Flags Magic Mountain. So we do have a video on the channel of ranking every single roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain based on how much we like the ride. But this video is going to be completely different. Today we're going to be solely ranking the rides based on how intense they are. That means that this video is not our opinions on the ride, just our opinions on how intense it is. Meaning there'll be rides towards the top that I don't like very much, but they're up there because they're more intense than other rides. And remember, this is just my experience on these coasters, so be sure to comment down below how you would rank the rides based on the intensity. Alright, but with that being said, let's get right into the video. Alright, first we're going to start off with some honorable mentions, some coasters that did not make the cut for the top 10. And those rides are going to be Gold Rusher, Superman Escape from Krypton, The New Revolution, Scream, the new ride Wonder Woman Flight of Courage, and West Coast Racers. All of these rides do have some intense moments, but are not that intense overall, so that's why they didn't make the list for the top 10. And while I do love some of these rides and they're towards the top of my list of ranking them, they don't make the cut in terms of the intensity. Alright, but with that out of the way, let's get right into number 10. And at number 10, we have Full Throttle. Now, this ride is on the list because of how forceful that first launch is, as well as the third and final launch. Also, Full Throttle has some of the strongest, most intense airtime out of any coaster I've ever experienced ever over that top hat. And even though this brakes on the drop, it's still one of the most intense moments of airtime ever, so that's one of the main reasons why it made number 10 on this list. Overall, I really do like Full Throttle, but it's not the most intense ride in the park. So moving on, at number 9, we have Ninja. Now, this ride is supposed to be a family coaster, however, it's extremely intense. It's by far the most intense suspended coaster I've been on, and it's actually a really fun ride. But yeah, that second half over the water by Jetstream is just insane. You really feel the forces of the ride. And it's surprisingly smooth while it's going through these extremely intense moments, so it makes it a really fun ride overall. But yeah, it's just slightly higher than Full Throttle on this list because it's more sustained intensity. It's throughout the entire ride rather than just being one moment of intensity. But yeah, other than that, Ninja's a pretty intense ride and it's a really fun one too. But let's move on to number 8, and at number 8 we have Twisted Colossus. Now this ride doesn't have much positive G's, but this ride is full of negative G's in airtime, and that's what puts it at the number 8 spot. Twisted Colossus has some insanely strong sustained airtime, such as over that first drop, and the one camelback on the blue side is insane as well. The reason why it's at number 8 is because of how strong that airtime is. And while it's not as intense as some of the other coasters at the park, the airtime is just insane, and it's my number 1 coaster overall at the park. That being said, it's still not as intense as some of the other coasters on this list. So let's move on. And at number 7, we have Apocalypse, the GCI wooden coaster at the park. This ride is insane. It is one of the most intense wooden coasters I've been on, and it just feels so out of control. Yes, it's a little bit rough, but that kind of adds to the intensity with it being a wooden coaster, and you expect most wooden coasters to be rough when you ride them. Overall, I'm a huge fan of Apocalypse, and one of the reasons for that is because of how intense it is. So that's why it makes the list at number 7. Alright, but moving on, at number 6, we have Riddler's Revenge. Now, this ride is actually one of my least favorite rides in the park. However, it makes this list because it is so forceful on those loops and inversions. Now, I don't know if standing up on the coaster makes it any different or any more forceful, but you really feel those positive G's, especially on those vertical loops. Riddler's Revenge has some intense inversions, and it really is a fun ride. I just really don't like the stand-up aspect of it. If it was a sit-down coaster, I'd enjoy it so much more, but for now, it's one of my least favorite coasters in the park. However, that being said, it is extremely intense, and it has a nice pump of airtime that is a nice break from the intensity midway through the ride. Overall, though, this ride is just a powerhouse of intensity, so that's why it makes it on the list. And next, coming in at number 5, we have Tatsu. This ride overall is not that intense, but there's one specific moment that puts it this high on the list, and that is the insanity that is the pretzel loop. This is probably one of the single most intense moments I have ever experienced on a coaster in my life. It is just pure insanity. The first half of the ride is super graceful and not intense at all, and the second half of the ride is also super graceful and not intense as well. However, that pretzel loop in the middle of the ride is just madness. You really get pushed back into your seat, and I've never ridden this coaster and not grayed out before. The positive G's are insane and is such a unique experience being pushed backwards into your seat. because most coasters you're getting pressed down, not backwards. It is also a significantly bigger pretzel loop than those found on the Superman Ultimate Flight models, so it is just an insane experience from start to finish. Tatsu is one of my favorite coasters overall, and the pretzel loop is no joke. So that's why it makes it at number 5 on my list. Alright, but coming in at number 4 is a ride that I'm not really a huge fan of, however it is extremely intense, and that is Goliath. Those helixes on the second half of the ride always cause me to gray out or even black out sometimes. They are super intense. And while the first half of the ride I actually prefer because of the weightlessness on the drop and the airtime hill, that second half you cannot argue is extremely intense. Those helixes are seriously some of the most intense moments I have felt on a roller coaster, and it really is extremely forceful. And like I said, I'm not a huge fan of this ride. I definitely prefer strong, sustained airtime on hypercoasters rather than strong forcefulness. However, I can definitely appreciate how intense of a ride this one is. So that's why it makes it at number 4 on our list. Alright, next coming in at number 3 is a ride that I used to not consider to be very intense. However, recently it runs extremely fast, and that is Viper. Now, I will say the second half of the ride is really mediocre and is not intense at all. However, that first half before the mid-course is insane. Especially if you ride in the back row, you get flung over that first drop, and you are hurtling through those elements at extremely fast speeds. Those loops always cause me to gray out or even black out. They are so insanely forceful and intense, I can't even explain it. I don't know what happened to this ride recently, but it just runs so fast and so forceful. The first half is also decently smooth, so I don't mind it being super fast and forceful. If you're looking for extreme intensity on a coaster, head to the back row of Viper and you'll be surprised. This ride is seriously one of the most intense coasters I've ever been on, and it's surprising that it's so intense for how old it is. I actually really like this ride, and I hope it has a long lifetime at the park still. However, coming in at number 2, we have a ride that is even more intense, and that is Batman the Ride. I have been on a few of these Batman the Ride clones so far, however the one at Magic Mountain is by far my favorite. I don't know why, but it runs so smoothly and is so insanely intense. It is extremely compact, and the positive Gs are insane, especially on that helix after the second loop. I am a huge fan of this ride. Combining its smoothness with its insane intensity just makes it such an incredible coaster. It is by far the most intense invert that I've ever been on, and it's just so much fun. It really has some of the strongest positive Gs I've ever experienced, and those loops are some of the most forceful loops I've ever been on. I would definitely recommend Batman for anybody that's an intense thrill seeker. However, Batman the Ride is not at number 1, and that number 1 spot goes to possibly the most intense coaster I have ever ridden in my life, and that is X2. This ride is so insane. From that vertical first drop that twists you so you're diving towards the ground and flips you at the last second, to its insane Raven turn at the end that is extremely rough, but you cannot argue that is extremely intense as well. This ride just has everything. It is so insane. It is also one of the scariest coasters I've ever been on. Hanging off the side of the cart, with the carts flipping around as they're going through the course, it is just pure insanity. You can find nothing else like it in North America. Overall, it's one of the most intense coasters I've ever been on, and I would definitely recommend it. However, I would not recommend it to the faint of heart because this ride is insane. It really is one of the most intense coasters in the world. And especially that first drop, it just really is so incredible. Alright, that's going to do it for our list of ranking the top 10 most intense coasters at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Be sure to comment down below what you think is the most intense ride at Magic Mountain, and be sure to comment any other parks you want to see in this series. Thank you so much for watching our video today. Be sure to check out our other videos on our channel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like these. Thank you so much for watching World of Immersion today, and we'll catch you in the next video.